Hey guys, I am your educator Shulakna Ghoto. Today I want to brief you about the topic behavioral ecology. So first of all, to know about the behavioral ecology, we should have a clear concept about ecology. So what is ecology? We know very well ecology is that in which we can see the relationship between living organisms. That means how the biotic and the abiotic factors interact with its surrounding, or how the ecosystem is maintained, etc. And study about those things are called ecology, right? So behavioral ecology is the study of relationships between an organism's behavior and the environment in which that behavior has expressed or evolved. Here, what is meant by behavior? Behavior is what an organism does and how it does it to adapt with its environment. So, learning can be one type of behavior, adaptation also can be one type of behavior, and that's why we can see varieties not only in animals but also in plants like C3 plant, C4 plants, etc. So behavioral ecology describes that ecological and evolutionary basis for animal behavior. And what type of ecological and evolutionary basis can be? It can be temperature, pH, rainfall, resources like food, shelter, etc. and role of behavior that help the organism to adapt in particular environment. So, if I am not changing my behavior according to surrounding, then I can struggle or I can survive. And behavioral ecology are concerned at three problems that organisms face. First of all, obtaining food. Secondly, avoiding being eaten. And third of all is reproduction. Because every organism wants to survive in nature for a long period of time and also wants to inherit its genes into its next generation. So by behavioral ecology, we can focus or we can study of their mating behavior, learning behavior, cooperating behavior, etc. And also we may know the way how to control those behaviors. Okay? There are four most important behaviors can be seen in organisms like altruism, reciprocal altruism, mating behavior and imprinting. So let's see elaborately about altruism. Altruism means selfless concern. That means an organism is said to behave altruistically or helpfully when its behavior benefits other organisms at a cost to itself. That means when an organism cares for others except itself or by sacrificing its own life, then that behavior is called altruistic behavior. Though this behavior is common in all animal kingdom, but specifically it is seen in organisms who lives in complex social structure, or in social animals it can be seen like in eusocial insects like ants, wasps, bees, etc. Also in vampire bats, what they do, they regularly regurgitate blood and donate it to their group members who have failed to feed in that night, and ensuring that they do not starve. Similarly, in vervet monkeys, suppose in a forest there are a group of vervet monkeys, as they always tend to live in groups. And if you notice carefully, then you can find that they must have one leader monkey who always go in front of them and guide them, while others follow the leader. If suddenly a predator comes in front of them, then leader monkey observes it firstly and give a alarming call to the fellow monkeys to run and save their lives. And by this alarming call, it attracts attention of the predator to itself and increasing its personal chance of being attacked. Leader monkey mainly does this to protect the young ones or the reproductively active group members, which can enhance their gene to their next generation. Okay? The existence of altruism in nature does not support Darwin's viewpoint of natural selection, because as Darwin, natural selection leads us to expect animals to behave in ways that increase their own chance of survival and reproduction, not those of others in their surrounding. And this is called survival of the fittest, isn't it? But in altruism, it is totally conflict or opposite of natural selection, because Darwin said that the natural selection is the main driving force of evolution. But by behaving altruistically, an animal reduces its own fitness and increases its chance of being attacked to benefit others, as I told in the example of vervet monkeys, right? So now you can ask me that if this altruism is not relevant for natural or realistic evolutionary flow, then why should we go through this topic, right? Because altruistic behaviors of self-sacrificing individuals are not enhancing the survival and reproductive success. Then the scientist William D. Hamilton in the year 1964 explains the altruistic act in terms of inclusive fitness. Then what is inclusive fitness? Inclusive fitness is the theory of evolutionary biology in which an individual's reproductive success rate is described, which is believed to deprive by altruistic behavior. That means Hamilton pointed out that when we measure the fitness of a trait, then we must take into consideration the effect that trait has on the fitness of other individuals, as well as the individual who performs that behavior. Like in the example of vervet monkeys, I have told that leader monkey takes its life into risk mainly to protect the reproductively active or young ones, which can protect their genetic flow into the next generation. Clear? According to Hamilton, inclusive fitness is made up of two components, such as direct fitness and indirect fitness. Direct fitness is that by producing its own offspring, that means which are directly linked with its offspring, like our parents are directly linked with us. And indirect fitness is by providing the aid or help that enables other close relatives who share many of those genes to produce offspring. That means like we are indirectly linked with our relatives like uncle, grandfather, cousins, etc. Okay? So now Hamilton rule. Hamilton proposed a quantitative measure for prediction when natural selection would favor altruistic acts. He demonstrated that an altruistic gene will be favored by natural selection in a certain conditions. That means social behavior evolves under a specific combination of relatedness, benefit, and cost. He stated that RB greater than C, where C represents the cost incurred by the altruist. B represents the benefit received by the recipients of the altruism, and R represents the coefficient of relatedness between donor and recipient. That means he said that if any organism shows altruistic behavior, then the multiplication of its relatedness with its coefficient or R, that means its relationship with its group member, and how the group members are benefited by it or B should be always greater than the cost or C of how many offspring, that means new altruistic products, are produced. Here the cost and benefits are measured in terms of reproductive fitness. So this equation is also acceptable in natural selection, Because in natural selection, it is also important to increase the reproductive fitness of the whole population, but not only in the single one. But if the scenario become RB less than C, then the cost become greater and relationship become also indirect relationship. So in that case, altruistic behavior is not possible. Clear? So, by Hamilton's rule, we can predict a logical table. Actually, every ordinary diploid, that means 12 number of organisms, share 50% of its genetic information with either of its parents, whether with its mom or its dad. So the value of relatedness coefficient become half or 0.5, and accordingly its siblings therefore also share half of each parent's contribution of their genome. So their value of R become also 0.5. Consequently, each of grandparent or half sibling contributes about 25% of its genome. Similarly, cousins share 12% of its genome. So we can say that nth level of ancestor or descendant contribute 1 by 2 to the power n number of genome, and nth number of cousin contribute 1 by 2 to the power 2n plus 1 number of genome. And according to the Hamilton's rule, strangers have a relatedness of 0, which is the smallest possible value. Similarly, my relatedness with myself or with my identical twins must be 1, which is the largest possible value. So this table is very much important to solve mainly the numericals. Now, the kin selection. The natural selection that favors altruistic behavior by enhancing reproductive success to relatives is called kin selection. Kin selection theory predicts that animals are more likely to behave altruistically towards their relatives than towards unrelated members of their species. Moreover, it predicts that the degree of altruism will be greater when the near relationship are present. That means the value of relatedness coefficient become higher. Clear? Suppose, for an example, in case of eusocial animals like honeybees are haplodiploid. In these insects, sterile female workers are diploid but imperfect female. So they obviously do not leave any offspring of their own and have personal fitness of 0. But they devote their whole lives for constructing and protecting their nest, searching for food, tending the larvae, and generally assisting the reproductive effects of the queen. In them, queens are only diploid, not only diploid, but perfect and fertile females. Eggs are produced only by fertile queen and fertilized by the males, who are always haploid. For that reason, they are called haplodiploid, because always males are haploid and females are diploid in them. In case of male bees, or they are called drones, are developed from unfertilized eggs by the process of parthenogenesis, and thus carry half number, that means haploid, or n number of maternal genotype only, whereas female are always diploid, that means 2n number, and derived from 50% of mother's genes but 100% of father's genes, as males are always haploid in honeybees, that's why. So females are related to their full sister by 25% of their mom's gene and 50% of their father's gene, that means total 75% or 3/4. And their females are related to their full brothers by only 25% of their mother's gene, that means 1/4. Clear? Now the reciprocal altruism. Here the word reciprocal means opposite. The theory of reciprocal altruism explains the cases of altruism not only in the relatives but among the unrelated organisms, including members of different species. Such behavior can be adaptive if the aided or helped individual returns the favor in the future. That means one organism helped the other in expectation of future reciprocation or help in return. So it is necessary that individuals should interact with each other more than once and have the ability to recognize other individuals with whom they have interacted and got help in the past. For example, baboons may help an unrelated companion in a fight. A wolf may offer food to another wolf even though they share no kinship. Warning calls of birds alert other animals of a forest. Red-winged black male birds help in protecting neighbor's nest. So those are the examples of reciprocal altruism. Clear? Now, the third important behavior is mating behavior. Mating behavior includes seeking or attracting mates, choosing among potential mates, and competing for mates for high reproductive success. The mating relationship varies in different types from species to species. Like first of all, promiscuous. No strong bonding or lasting relationship like in baboons. Here ratio must be 1:1 of male and female. That means one male must mate with one female partner. Secondly, monogamous. In this, mates remain together for a long period of time and one male mating with one female. That means loyalty remain in relationship. Here, males and females are generally morphologically similar. Example, in swans. Thirdly, polygamous. An individual, whether it may be male or female, mates with many others. It have two types. First of all, polygyny means when single male mates with many females. Polygynous species are generally dimorphic, that means not morphologically similar with each other, in which males being showier and often larger than females. For example, Bengal tiger. And lastly, polyandry means when single female mates with many males. Polyandrous species are also dimorphic, in which females are generally more ornamental and larger than males. For example, in spotted sandpiper. Here are some important terms of mating behavior, like sexual selection. It is the form of natural selection. Darwin was the first to realize the existence and importance of sexual selection. Reproductive success is the important fact included in sexual selection. That means in this, fighting among individuals occurs to prove that who have the strong genes to pass into the next generation, to increase their reproductive success rate and potentiality. Reproductive success can be realized into two ways. First of all, intersexual selection. Here inter means in between. So in this case, females are more choosy, evaluating morphological and behavioral traits from potential mates, which will maximize their fitness. And secondly, intrasexual selection. Here intra means within. This involves competition between members of same species. That means males fight with males as well as females fight with females for mating. Clear? The last and most important behavior is imprinting behavior. Here, imprinting means impress or mark. That means a type of behavior that includes both learned and innate components of imprinting. So, the definition of imprinting behavior is it is the learning process that restricts performances to a specific class of objects. It implies some sensitive behavior when imprinting can occur. During the sensitive period, young imprint on their parent and learn the basic behavior of their species, while the parent learns to recognize its offspring. Like we can see in the chicks. Chicks follow their mothers to imprint the basic behavior. Then the types. There are two types of imprinting behavior. First of all, filial imprinting. The best known form of imprinting is filial imprinting, in which young animals acquire several behavioral traits of their parents and follow them around. Secondly, the sexual imprinting. It is the process by which young animal learns the characteristics to choose the future mates. The effect of this early learning process become manifests in adult mate choice. Clear? So, hope your concept about this topic have been cleared after this session. There has provided a link of e-quiz into the description box so you can score and test yourself by those questions. And if you have any doubt or facing any problem during solving the e-quiz, then after scoring, please ask me into the comment section, and also you can reach to us through our mail ID which is into the description box. I am so much happy to say that in previous lesson I have got your lots of responses and doubts through mail. So don't miss the chance to get a healthy score. Lastly, thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe our channel. Then you can get notification about my next videos which is coming on every Sunday. Stay safe, stay tuned. Bye.